Welcome everyone to the Lofi Poli Sci podcast. I'm your host, Michael Pickering. That's right. Lo-fi as in low fidelity, low quality, in your face, messy as can be global news show. Here we're going to talk about that famous question, what's going on in the world today? But really, we're taking a small break from the news and talking about the upcoming United States elections in November. Now before you tune out, wait. Let me be clear. We are not talking about candidates, political parties, ideology, or election meddling. We're talking about elections and what elections mean to democracies in the world, and about media coverage. Now let's get a few facts out there into the lo-fi verse. There are about 200 countries in the world today. Most of them are not free democracies, and quite a few of them are hardcore authoritarian countries. However, almost every single country in the world, including North Korea and China, all have elections. Fact. Elections are viewed globally as a way to make political leaders look legitimate as rulers of the people in the eyes of the people they rule. Fact. There is no such thing as a perfectly free and fair election. Fact. Elections are far fairer and freer in democracies than authoritarian countries. Fact. Elections in democracies represent the will of the people more closely than in any other type of country on the planet. Fact. Elections are important. Subjective. You see, next month is August, lo-fi listeners, and the U.S. presidential race, Senate races, House races, governor races, new laws, new constitutional amendments will all be kicking off their campaigns into high gear. Us being Lofi Poli Sci, with Poli Sci meaning political science, and being part of the name of the podcast, we will talk about the state of the races from time to time come August and moving toward November. That being said, we are a global news show, so we comparatively won't be covering it that much. I know, I just heard all of you sigh in relief. Me too. But here's my heads up to you. If you have questions about the elections or about stories that you read, you can always write into the show and I will answer them for sure. If it's a topic with global implications, I may even talk about it on air. But since we won't be covering it that much, here's a few tips for you whilst surfing the news cycle of election stories. Number 1, look for facts, not interpretations or commentaries or opinions. All of you are smart enough to assess the facts for yourself. Don't let someone else tell you how to think or what to think. Number 2, just because you see a story a million times in the news cycle does not mean it will really affect the election outcomes. Media corporations have a big need to eat, meaning money, meaning viewership and rating numbers. If a story is controversial, they will cover it to death. But again, it doesn't mean that story will affect the election outcome. Number 3, social media are not news creators or news organizations. You want real news? Try a real news outlet. Social media are discussion boards, nothing more. Remember that. Number 4, if you're unsure if a story is real or credible or not, research it. If you can't find out, ask someone with knowledge of the issue area or write into the show. There is news and there is lying. The terminology of fake news implies that a story that isn't true is still news. Newsflash, Lo-Fi Nation, it's not. But there is a name for that. It's called bullshit. And number 5, and one last tip for surfing the election news cycle as we come into August. Unplug before you get frustrated. If you feel yourself getting overwhelmed, click out before you tap out. There are 200 countries in the world to think about, as well as your own lives out there. And especially during this election cycle, always remember that Lofi Poli Sci is more than just me. It's the we that we be. Tune in tomorrow for Thursday's episode of Lo-Fi Global News. Write in with questions or comments to lofipolisci@planetmail.com. Thanks for listening. Stay safe, wash those hands, and I'll see you on the next episode of the Lo-Fi Poli Sci podcast. Pickering, signing off.